before you actually got the business off the ground and created Bobbles and Lace, you were living in California, correct? Yes. And you were working as a stylist freelance, or did you have were you working under a company? Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about that story and sort of where you were before Bobbles and Lace got started?
Okay, this is the fun one.
This is the best.
This is a fun one. So I was living in downtown LA with Derek, who's my husband now, boyfriend then. We had like a mattress on the floor, living in a loft, very sexy.
Roughing it.
Very roughing it sexy. He is a musician, and so he was doing that thing, and I was doing some light acting modeling, and that's not at all what I wanted to do. It just
really
happened.
It didn't interest you at all?
No.
You just fell into it.
I was a stylist back in the Boston area, and one day the model didn't show up, and they turned to me and said, can you step in for us? And so I did.
Yeah.
And it made money, but it just wasn't my thing.
Wow.
Wasn't my thing. So I was out there making some money, trying to find my passion, what I loved. Yeah. And we lived in the garment district in downtown LA. There was a lot of wholesale stores. And so I took $70. And I remember the amount, which is so weird. It was exactly $70. And I bought some wholesale jewelry. Now, I had an aunt back in the Boston area who at the time had a very successful Newbury Street jewelry stand. So I said, I'm going to do that smaller scale.
Yeah.
So bought myself a little bar cart, plastic bar cart, outfitted it out with an umbrella, and I decorated my $70 worth of jewelry on this plastic bar cart. And at lunchtime in downtown LA, I wheeled it down the street. So I'm wheeling it down the street. And at lunchtime, it's the financial district also. Everyone came down from where they were living. They all came down for lunch. Mm-hmm. And they bought all of my jewelry. So in 1 hour, I had nothing left.
Every single last piece.
Everything was gone.
Wow.
So I now, instead of $70, had like $300. Yeah. And I thought, ooh, that was fun, but maybe it was a fluke. Let's try it again. So I went back down to the wholesale district. I bought $300 worth of goodies. One of the things I sold, weirdly enough, was an owl necklace, and I could exactly remember it to this day. Okay, so owls have a very special meaning to me because of it. But in any case, we bought $300 worth of stuff, wheeled it down the street the next day, and lo and behold, I had $700. I said, oh my God, this works. And really, not much has changed. I know it sounds crazy, and now we're, 8 stores strong. Now we're a franchise. It's really the same basic model. Mm-hmm. Buy cool things, tell people how to wear them, and that's it.
I mean, you've just scaled it, really.
You got it.
And fine-tune, I'm sure you have a little bit more authority in terms of the inventory and what's available, right? What you're going to put in there. Yeah. But I'm curious, looking back, like, what do you really think was sort of the magic juice that made that work? Was it getting there at the right time for these, business women or men, whoever was purchasing, and just like, I don't have the time to go to the store myself, and is it the convenience of it? Or do you think that it was really the curation of the pieces that you had selected? What made it so successful? Because that's rare.
It's real. I think it's really a culmination of many things. I think it's a great curation. I think I'm a great curator, and I'm not one to boast or brag about myself. You'll learn that. But I'm a really good curator. That's my talent. But it's also trial and error. This street didn't work. I'm going to go to this street. I'm going to try this street. It's also being able to, I don't want to say sell, but being able to match people to the right product for them.
Right.
Really understanding your clientele. And the last part of it is just hard work. It's not easy. It was hard to make that card, and I make it sound easy and fun, but I had to paint it. I had to get a business license. There were also a lot of other steps that go along with it.
You had to get a business license for writing a card around?
I did.
No way.
Yeah, then I had to get a peddler's license, which I actually couldn't do, so I did it illegally, and that's So don't try that at home, people. You can't just
Learn from her mistakes.
Oh my God, the cops used to pull up and be like, "You again?" I was like, "Yeah."
You're like, "Hey, Mike, how's it going?"
How's it going?
I
I'm
know.
outta here.
I'll leave.
Exactly.
Wow. So taking it back even a step further, before you got to LA and, before you got into styling, what about being a stylist really drew you in, and what was interesting about that career path?
Oh my God, it's in my blood.
Yeah.
So I grew up with a single mom, and she has 2 sisters, and it's like a tribe of really fashionable women. But my grandmother owned a consignment store, so a secondhand store in Marblehead. So growing up with a single mother and growing up on the counter of a consignment store, I really understood that style didn't have to come at a high price. Mm-hmm. You can't buy style.
Yeah.
And so watching my grandmother style women, I used to let me do the mannequins as soon as I could walk. Oh my gosh,
that must have been so fun.
It was so fun.
It's like dress up.
She had a jewelry display of glass. She let me do the display. So it's truly, I think it's in my blood.
Yeah, it's almost like you didn't have a choice. It was what you were doing from a young age. Everyone around you was doing it. But to your point, like, you really saw the value in it too. And you noticed how it made people feel and how you could really change someone's day-to-day when you make it accessible for them. Mm-hmm. And it is one of those things you kind of like either have it or you don't. So why not give a little help or take a little help if need be from other people,
Exactly.
So I'm curious, this is kind of a fun question. Now being a mom, do you approach styling differently when it comes to like, here's what my kids, I'm sure at this age they're probably picking out what they want to wear, but like maybe when they're a little bit younger, do you approach what styling differently when it comes to a client versus like your kids, or if you guys have an event and like your husband needs to pick out his tie, or is it always the same part of the brain that you're just like, nope, this is what works, or is it, you know what I mean, like a little bit different when it's more personal?
Yeah, I've always been the friend that people call and they're like, "Lindsay, I need help. What do I wear with this?"
Yeah.
But I know those people and they trust me already. I think when it's a client in the store and really understanding their comfort level, their vision for themselves, their body type, what makes them feel fabulous. That's a whole different thing. That's trust that needs to be earned.
Yeah,
but
absolutely,
it's different and it's the same.
Yeah. I get you.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Yeah.
And another sort of fun question is, although it was never your intention, you did end up seeing both sides of the fashion industry, on the styling side, but then also being a model and actress. Mm-hmm. What sort of realizations did you have during that time once you were able to see sort of from a 360 lens? Or like, did you be like, oh, wow,
Yeah. There's very little... From my perspective, I had very little creative control when you're in the front of the camera.
Right.
You're being told what to do. Where the other way, I have the power to communicate. So it's a little bit about expression. It's a little bit about power. It's a little bit about creativity and self and value. Yeah. And it's let me tell you, that's a hard job to be in the front of a camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have all eyes on you, and it just was not for me. I'd much rather be working from the sidelines. Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Even like on this sometimes, or afterwards we'll take a photo. It's like, how come the photos in my house by myself always look so cute? And then I look at the photos here. It's just, you feel like like the eyes are on you. You know what I mean? It's not natural. It's just nice kind of being behind the scenes a little bit.
And some people love it and thrive on it, and it's great. But
yes.
I'd much rather be on that side of things.
I don't blame you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you sort of alluded to the fact that you were pretty much a hustler back in LA. You were just whatever when you got to that next step and you're like, okay, well now I need this license, or I got to figure out how to do this. You just made it work. So it's very clear to me how you got a full-fledged business running and off the ground. But for most, like, you know, coming up with the concept is easy, right? That's the easy part. So many people have these great ideas, and then the execution becomes the difficult sort of roadblock for them. So for you, once you finally came back to Massachusetts and, you know, you had success pushing that cart around and you had got your licenses where needed, how did you really transition into, okay, I'm going to open up a store and I'm going to get a real business started with like 4 walls and racks and the whole 9 yards?
Yeah, well, at that time I was doing, even before I moved, I was doing colleges. I was working at different colleges and the Rose Bowl and flea markets, and that's a whole nother hustle. You have to load the car up at the end of the day. You have to set up a store. It's really like having a mobile store. And I used to fit it all into my Jetta at the time. So it was quite, so to me, 4 walls at the time seemed like a luxury to be able to lock up and leave at the end of the day. So it was, you know, really great. But, you know, having my aunt at the time had a store in Marblehead called Bobbles, and I had transitioned to selling clothing. So I said, why don't we open Bobbles and Lace? You'll be the bobbles and I'll be the lace and I'll bring the clothes.
Yeah.
So we weren't sure how it was going to hit when we first opened. You know, it's very fashion forward. A lot of the styles and designers come from California. And in Marblehead at the time, the hot store was Lily Pulitzer in the pink. Not saying anything bad about Lily Pulitzer in the pink. It's just the opposite styling as to what.
I hope you guys are watching her somewhere on YouTube, or you've seen this on Instagram as well, because if you only saw what she's wearing, you would understand why it is the opposite of Lily Pulitzer.
Yeah, you know, yeah. I'm like the naughty older sister, but that's of Lily, but that's fine.
I love it.
Yeah. So we were unsure of how it was going to go. But, you know, part of starting a business, you have to take a risk. You have to take risks. You have to believe in yourself. You have to love your product. There are so many have-tos. And we opened the doors, and kind of like the push cart, everything sold. In a week, me and my aunt turned to each other and went, wow, we're out of product. That worked.
That's incredible.
Yeah.